We'll learn a few dinim of the 3 weeks, Shivah Tammuz, and then next week, Mishnah, we'll go back to the dinim of weddings. Okay, now, 5 bad things happened on Shivah Tammuz. The first thing was Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, and then the second worst thing was that when the Goyim made a siege around the city of Yerushalayim, so after, for 3 weeks, Shivah Tammuz, they broke through the wall of Yerushalayim, and 3 weeks later on Tisha B'Av they actually destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore Shivah Tammuz is actually the beginning of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore there are many dinim that apply from Shivah Tammuz through Tisha B'Av. Now it's interesting, in the Gemara only speaks about the week of Tisha B'Av. The Gemara Merid Kat doesn't speak about the 3 weeks, the 9 days. The Gemara speaks about the week of Tisha B'Av, that Tisha B'Av is in, that is, becomes all the dinim of mourning and the structure, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So many Sfardim don't keep the 3 weeks as we know of them. Ashkenazi communities, we all keep the 3 weeks. But one thing is for sure, that the day of Shivah Tammuz, now this year, because Shivah Tammuz falls out on Shabbos you're not allowed to fast, so the fast is pushed off to Sunday. So because it's a pushed off fast, it's halachically easier than if Shivah Tammuz would be the actual day you're fasting. So, but the dinim of the 3 weeks, whatever somebody's custom is during the 3 weeks, begins actually from Shabbos, not from Sunday. For instance, the Shabbos you can't take a haircut anyway. During the 3 weeks, we don't take haircuts. You're allowed to cut your nails. Only the week of Tisha B'Av you don't. But you're allowed to cut your nails during the 3 weeks. You don't cut your hair during the 3 weeks. We don't make a shechiyonu on new fruits or on new things during the 3 weeks. And our custom is, like most customs, that we don't even do it on Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you don't make a shechiyonu during the 3 weeks. So therefore, even though the fast begins Sunday or Sunday morning, the fact that the 3 weeks begins Friday night means already Friday night, this Shabbos, you can't make a shechiyonu if you follow that tradition of the 3 weeks. You cannot make a shechiyonu on any new fruit or any new garment or whatever. But otherwise, besides that, Shabbos itself, it gets brought down in Chassidus, in Kabbalah, that you need to show more simcha than you would on a regular Shabbos. We shouldn't think the Shabbos is above. There's no, God forbid, somebody sitting Shiva, on Shabbos there's no mourning. Shabbos is above mourning. So you have to show on Shabbos that there's more simcha than it would on a regular Shabbos. Now, as far as the fast goes, the fast begins here in LA at 4:44 a.m. Sunday morning, which means if you want to get up early Sunday morning to eat, the din is you have to have in mind before you go to sleep Saturday night that you're planning to get up early to eat, because otherwise, once you go to sleep, the fast actually begins. So whether you're planning to get up or not, I would strongly suggest you have in mind that if you're going to be getting up, you're going to eat out or drink anyway, because what happens in the middle of the night, you get up, even if you're not planning to, and you're like this, you wouldn't be able to take a drink or eat or anything. Now if you make a condition, so then you're allowed to eat or drink. As far as the fast itself goes, especially because it's pushed off, but even if it wouldn't be, Shivah Tammuz, pregnant women don't have to fast, nursing women don't have to fast, people that are weak, sick, not even very, very sick, especially this year because it's a pushed off fast, so it's halachically easier. So if somebody doesn't feel well, they're allowed to break their fast and not fast the whole day. It's interesting. So in fact, somebody called me today. They're flying in from Europe. I don't know why in the world they would make a ticket like that. It's the most ridiculous thing to do. They're flying in from Europe to America on Shivah Tammuz. Now, don't forget, they're later. If you go to New York from here, so you end up fasting 3 hours less, because New York gets dark before here. You go to Israel, you're going to fast 10 hours less. Well, you won't get there anyway in time, but you'll be fasting less. But if you go from New York, let's say, to LA, and you come in the middle of the fast day, even though the fast might be over in New York, you got to continue fasting, because here the fast is not over yet. So if you're coming from Europe to America, you end up fasting another 7 hours. So, in fact, it was some girls. It wasn't even men. It was the girls. So he said, what should we do? I said, listen, you should try to fast. You don't feel well, then you can break the fast because it's a nidcha. But it's not a good thing to make a ticket to fly b'chlal on a fast, especially when you're coming the wrong way. You're going to end up fasting much, much longer. But it's okay if we can have our comfort, because if you go to Alaska, L'moshul, Shivah b'Tammuz, because over there it's summer, so there's almost all day.
It's longer than Tisha B'Av.
Huh?
Last year was longer than Tisha B'Av.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, if you go from here to Alaska, or you're in Alaska for Shivah b'Tammuz, you end up fasting 24 hours, almost, because you start to fast in the morning, but it never becomes dark. So 2 o'clock in the morning, it's still bright sunshine. So technically, you would have to fast. Therefore, the guys in Alaska, I know what they do. Like even for Havdalah, Shabbos is over there, and the summer days 2:30 in the afternoon, in the morning, is when Shabbos ends. So they end up making Havdalah Sunday morning. But if you're there during the winter, it's good. Like Asar b'Tevis, which is in the winter. So the day begins at 9:30, and 2:30 the day's over already. Because very long nights there in the winter. So the fast is like Asar b'Tevis. You have from 9:30 to, so you get up, you daven, you eat breakfast. 9:30 you begin fasting, and 2:30 you go eat lunch. I mean, it's basically good.
Whatever it was, just haven't changed your ticket.
Huh?
Whatever it called.
It's very easy to tell someone to change your ticket. Number one, it's very expensive to change your ticket, and not always can you change your ticket. So it's not, of course, they have an opportunity to do it.
But there is no problem to fly on the 3 weeks, no?
There's no problem to fly in the 3 weeks. You can go swimming during the 3 weeks, except it says in Halacha that Shivah b'Tammuz itself, the fast day, you shouldn't swim. Because you're like stricter, you treat it a little bit like the 9 days. But during the 3 weeks, meaning from Shivah b'Tammuz, also keep the 3 weeks. Through Tisha B'Av, there's no music, not live music, not taped music, recorded music. It's a sad period. It's like somebody, God forbid, in middle of a year. In fact, it's interesting. You know, God forbid somebody dies. So there's Shiva, and then you have Shloshim, and then for a parent you have a year. So these are the 3 times. From Shivah b'Tammuz until the 9 days is like a year. 9 days is like Shloshim. And then Tisha B'Av itself is like mamash like Shiva. So it's the same concept in reverse about how a person... Okay, so therefore it's like this. During the 3 weeks, you can get married. You can get engaged. You can make a party, but you can't have music until the 9 days. The 9 days you can't make parties either. In fact, what happens, it says, if a Jew is by profession a musician, and Goyim want to hire him for a party to play, so then he's allowed to play during the 3 weeks for parnasa, for making a living. He's allowed to play in the Goy's house until the 9 days. The 9 days already he shouldn't be playing music.
What about for Jewish not Orthodox clients?
What?
What about for Jewish not Orthodox clients?
That make weddings and then?
What?
If it's his profession, there are those that are lenient. If he can get out of it, obviously it's better. But because the truth, I'll tell you, it's not that bad, and I'll tell you why. Because again, in the Gemara, it only speaks about the week of Tisha B'Av. The Gemara doesn't speak about the 3 weeks or the 9 days. This is a minig that Rabbi brings down in Ashkenazic tradition. So you can't say that, in fact, there's a very interesting tshuva in Rabbi Feinstein. Okay, this year it's Friday night, it doesn't matter. Let's say Shivah b'Tammuz is Monday night and Tuesday. The fast, yeah? I mean, you don't fast at night. But Monday night, can you get married? Because the fast really begins in the morning. But Shivah b'Tammuz, the 3 weeks, begins at night. So most opinions say you can't make a wedding the night of Shivah b'Tammuz, even though the fast begins the next day. But for instance, on this Sunday, you can take a shower, marital relations, all those things are permissible, except you don't eat or drink after 4:44. Davening obviously is longer because you have slichus and you have Avinu Malkeinu and you have Torah reading. It's a much longer davening. And in Mincha, you also have Torah reading with a Haftarah and you have Avinu Malkeinu. So the davening is a longer davening. A person that's not fasting should not be called to the Torah because he's not fasting. But it says in Allah what happens if somebody is called to the Torah or they're not feeling well, so they broke their fast. But they're embarrassed to tell it to people. They're just embarrassed to say they're not fasting, even though it might be legitimate. So then it's questionable if you call them up, if they can go on. And many opinions say if you call them up, they can be called to the aliyah, not to embarrass the person. He doesn't have to say, I'm not fasting. But l'chatchila, if a person is not fasting, they shouldn't be called for an aliyah. Let's say there's one kohen in the shul, and the kohen is not fasting. You still don't call him up because he's not fasting. It's worse because if it's a day, let's say a fast day is Monday or Thursday, where there's Torah reading anyway, so then it would be easier to give somebody an aliyah because it is a Torah reading day. But Sunday is not a Torah reading day. So the only reason you're reading the Torah is because of a fast day. So if a guy's not fasting, then you don't call him up to the Torah because it's not right.
It's not embarrassing him though.
I said,
But he shouldn't tell me.
he doesn't have to be the only one in shul to be called. There's not...
Well, he's the only coin, you don't call him, so it's gonna look funny.
So either he walks out of shul beforehand, makes it inconspicuous, or if there's no choice and it would be embarrassing, and they call him up, then he can go up, it says.
If they call him up, and he should.
L'chatchila, he shouldn't. He should. Don't come in with the sandwich.
And during Sphere, tape music during Sphere, any difference?
Svira, no, those that in a time when music is forbidden, a vast majority of poskim hold, it applies not only to live music, it refers to tape music also, because if you think about what's the difference.
Tape music.
In fact, there's an interesting question. There's something called a cappella. A cappella means there's no musical instruments, there's only voices that sound like musical, but Leperl, it's singing. So many poskim, by the way, forbid even a cappella, because they say, look, it's the same reason. The bottom line is, it sounds entertaining. You don't entertain yourself. And a lot of poskim are mekel, and until the 9 days, that a cappella you can listen to, because a cappella is not music, it's people singing. During the 9 days, many people are machmer not to sing, even singing. In fact, when the camps used to come to the Rebbe, it used to come, when they had rallies, so normally when camps come to the Rebbe, Chafov, they used to come in different times, so the camps would sing the davening. They sing Ashrei, and they sing Aleinu, and they sing Moedim. They have all these camp songs that they would sing by Ashrei and Modim and Aleinu. The 9 days they didn't sing it. The Rebbe's minion, the kids didn't sing. You just, huh? No, tefillin you put on, only Tisha B'Av. The Ashkenazim have a custom, we wear it only in the afternoon, not in the morning. But that's only Tisha B'Av. Shivah Tammuz is a regular day, except it's a longer davening.
So only Ashkenazi?
What?
Only till in the morning?
Tisha B'Av. A lot of Sfardim, there's interesting, a lot of Sfardim in these things adapted the Ashkenazi customs already. It's brought down in Sfardish halacha that a lot of them adapted the Ashkenazi halacha about the 3 weeks and the 9 days. Huh? No, but tefillin, some Sfardim wear tefillin privately in the morning, and then they'll come to shul and they'll daven.
Capella up to Rosh Chodesh Av is okay?
A cappella, the way we hold a cappella is good until Rosh Chodesh Av. The 9 days we don't sing, so then you don't have a cappella either. B'chlal, even though it doesn't, God forbid, mean we don't feel the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, but the Chassidic community in general doesn't like depression. They don't like sadness. So we don't overdo the sadness in all the laws of mourning, of Avelut, of mourning. We don't overdo the laws. We try to be makel, we try to be as lenient as possible within the realm of halacha. In fact, the Gemara said, but not about the 3 weeks, but about the laws of mourning. The Gemara says, "Hamashmol halacha kedivrei hamekel be'ovel." Be'avelis, the halacha is like the lenient opinion. And the Rebbe once told somebody, when somebody is lenient, not God forbid doesn't keep. I'm saying when they're lenient within Torah, in the laws of mourning, they are lenient upstairs in the punishment of the deceased. It means the person down here is makel within the framework of halacha, not stam, okay, I don't keep it. Within the framework of halacha, they don't have the laws of mourning, they're lenient in the laws of mourning, so that becomes more lenient for the neshama's punishment or judgment up there in Gan Eden. So that's basically, okay, time for my